Synth Network.
Hello! It's almost Christmas. Are you excited? I am. It's going to be a nice little Christmas break for me this year. Hope it's going to be for you. I apologise. Look, I've got my Christmas T-shirt on. You can't really see. There you go. There you go. Will Ferrell there for you. I apologise. It used to fit me, and now not so much. And I got the hat too. Getting fully into the Christmas spirit here, along with my fellow co-hosts and friends, Ben and Cryss. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you?
Oh, yeah. All right.
All right.
Happy Christmas.
How you doing? Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas.
Merry
Look at him with his... Oh, look at that. That's a jumper and a half. Both of you. Look at that.
Oh, yes.
Oh, we've properly entered into the Christmas spirit. Excellent stuff. So, shall we be completely honest with our viewers? Huh? If you're watching this now, you can say whatever the hell you like to us. We won't know because this is pre-recorded. I think we already told you we were going to do this. We're pre-recording the show ahead of Christmas Eve, but we're going to pretend it's kind of Christmassy and Jingle Belly. And this is just one of two shows that we're going to do. And we're not going to do them live because we've got families and we want to spend time with them as well. But we'll probably be watching, or certainly I will probably be watching on my laptop or something.
Join in on the chat.
Yeah, and we'll just join in. But what we thought we'd do for a change, it's just the three of us. We've got no special guests. Hope you enjoyed Lisa and Dan as well last week. That was a fantastic. Wasn't that a fantastic chat?
It was really good.
He was really interesting.
I think Lisa was better than the first time. Yeah. It was.
So we thought we'd do this and. Instead of interviewing a guest, we would actually go through this week and talk about our favourite pieces of gear or software from the past 12 months, as is kind of the tradition for a lot of people to do. So what we decided to do, and if you're in the UK, you might kind of be familiar with this format if you watch a programme called Match of the Day Top 10. And that's a football show. This is all about synths. So what we decided to do, instead of doing top 10s, we did top 5s. And we chose our top 5 pieces of hardware, our top 5 software instruments, and our top 5 effects, which I think are all software effects anyway. There's no hardware effects in there. So that was the criteria. And what we've all done, each of us has picked 5 in each category. And then we're going to tell each other what they are, tell you what they are. And we might agree on some, we might disagree on some. And then from each of those 5... So, for example, if we're talking about hardware synthesizers, from those 5 of each of us, we'll whittle it down to an agreed top 5. So that'll be the ProSynth Network top 5, and maybe we'll put them in order. There's no prizes to give away. There's no awards or trophies or fancy logos or graphics. It's just going to be, this is what we think. So, without further ado, shall we crack on? And what should we do? Effects first, then software instruments, and end up with the hardware, or do you want to do it another way round? What do you think?
I think hardware finally, maybe.
Yeah, so we'll leave the hardware till last because that's probably the most passionate one, I think. So let's start with effects. Because we often cover a lot of effects on the show, particularly software effects, because there's so many that are coming out and so many really, really good ones. So I think that if we let's read out our top 5 each, and then we can see where we've got crossover, and we can agree that those will go into our top 5.
Sounds good.
And
And
perhaps
then-
as we're going through our list, we should probably mention why they
Yeah,
been on our
absolutely,
top
yeah.
5.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to reach down here and get a piece of good old-fashioned paper, and then I can make notes as we go along, so I can keep a track of all of this stuff. So there we go. Right. So, ladies first, Ben. Your top 5. Sorry, I haven't even started on the beer yet.
I haven't got any.
Oh, it's Christmas, mate.
I know.
Come on.
I might be able to find some. If
Yeah,
you get
get the Vixter to bring some in. So, what have you gone for in terms of
My
effects this year?
Right. Well, at the number 5 spot. Can I give out honourable? Can I give out honourable mentions?
Well, let's do your top 5, and then we'll do the
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, at number 5.
Yeah.
Wrong hand. There you go. Number 5. We've got Mr. Wiggly and his incinerator.
Yeah.
I picked that because it's such a bonkers idea, but it really works.
Yeah.
It's just crazy, and you can go from just adding a little bit of warmth to a sound to completely annihilating it, and it's just great, and it really kind of suits Dom's character as well. It's a brilliant introductory plug-in from the Mr. Wiggly camp, and it's very, very recommended from me. Then at number 4, that's that one. Oh no, still wrong hand. Number 4, we've got Audio Modern's Filter Step.
Oh yeah.
Which it is literally is what it says on the tin, kind of thing. It's a filter that you can set the steps like you would in a sequencer, and you can have that synced in your DAW, and it can go from really kind of defined sequences to just subtle modulation of something, and I use that a lot. I was surprised with that. I thought I would probably never use it, and it's really good. I know you get like plugins like this in other things as well. There's step filter in Cubase, and every DAW's probably got one that does. But I just love the way this works because you can set the depth of it. So if you put it on a pad and you just want like slight variations in the sound going through your track, you can do it, and yeah, it's good. It's good that. Number 3, I had to take one of my choices off because it wasn't from this year, and it was at number 3. So instead of that one is an effect that I use for similar reasons to the one that I had kick out, and it's the Arturia Tape 201, which is kind of the version of a space echo that apparently doesn't really sound that much like a space echo, but I like it. I like what it does anyway.
Yeah.
So it's quite useful for me, and it's got a good sound. Then straight in at number 2, this, because a couple of weeks ago I didn't even know it existed, so it's flown straight in and kicked one of my main contenders out, and it's Reverb Foundry's Tai Chi Reverb.
Yes, yeah.
I think that is an absolute belter. That it's a cracker, and it's become, apart from Valhalla, one of my favourites. So Valhalla's been out ages, so that's why that's not here. And then at the number 1 spot, probably a bit of a surprise, but I've got IK Multimedia's Tascam tape collection thing.
Okay, yep.
Because
Sounds great.
I started off with a Tascam Portal 1, and it's really interesting, this one. We'll probably discuss it a little bit later, but a lot of people say, like, oh, you've got this pristine audio quality, why do you want to make it sound like something from 1990 or 88 or whatever it was that we were doing this? And it's not, it's not an all the time thing. It might just be in a certain part, or it might warm something up, or and just because we can record at pristine quality doesn't mean that we have to.
Exactly.
It's there if we want it.
Yeah.
But you don't have to quantize every note that you play because you can. So
I absolutely agree.
I'm of the same opinion with this, and I think that's a really, really great sounding collection, and I just love messing with the control. You know, like some of them's got EQ on it, and because they were Porter Studios, were built to do a lot of different things, and the EQ on one of them, I can't remember which one it is really nice. It's got that really vintage vibe to it. So yeah, they're my top 5.
Cool. No, that's a very good selection. I think some of those, at least one of those is on my list, and another one is kind of on my list. But yeah, we'll argue through those in just a moment. So, Cryss, in reverse order, then your top 5 effects for 2021.
Well, shoot, I have them ordered by the release date, I think.
Okay.
But let me go through this order anyway. I think this is roughly by release. I'm not sure what would be my favorite yet. But Mr. Wiggly Incinerator, which is such a quirky plugin, but has really come in to do some fun and exciting things, especially with drums. It really kind of pushes things into a different area in a very fun way. And so got to mention that one.
Yep.
Let's see. Number 2 will be Arturia's June 6 chorus. I've got tons of choruses. I love chorus. But I've been finding that I've been using this one probably more than anything else, and that includes on synthesizers and guitars. It sounds absolutely fantastic on both. And with that third mode, where you can actually dial in the rate and depth individually without the presets, has made it quite a versatile. There, that's the word.
Versatile virtual
chorus that it's just so rich sounding. I love it. Yes, I've got my notes on analog today here.
Yeah.
And being analog, they're a little bit messy. Okay, so next in order of release was Pulsar Modular's P42 Climax. And of course, last year we all loved Lunar Lander and are still loving that. And so P42, I got to work on presets for that, for the factory bank, and beta testing, and through that process really just grew to love this plugin. This is on all my stuff from the time I started using it. It's just on everything now, and it's such a great sounding, it's kind of a transformer saturation. It's got high pass and low pass and shelving filters, and it's just kind of this very, very useful tool. Like I use it in so many different ways. In fact, it's replaced a lot of my bass amp software by running my bass guitar through that on track. So really enjoying that one. And that, if I had to choose, it would probably be my favorite this year.
Sure.
Next in release was one that I actually just recently kind of found out about. We didn't talk about it on the show, but we talked about Eventide Split EQ, which would be one that's probably honorable mention. But because I started looking at that, I found Eventide Fission, and then also I found Waves Factory Quantum. Now, really like Waves Factory plugins, or EchoCAD is amazing, but the Quantum is this, I don't even know how to describe it, but it separates transients from the tonal elements, a lot like split EQ, but then it does a whole bunch of other effects. So you can use EQs and saturations or delays, reverbs, anything on different parts of your signal, whether by transient or by the tonal element of it, or what comes after the sustain element. So I have just barely started using it, but again, it's just such a fun, creative tool, and I'm just kind of enamored with it right now.
Yeah.
And so the most recent would be just released, a couple of weeks ago, would be the Reverb Foundry Tai Chi. I've had the sister company's Liquid Sonic's Seventh Heaven, which is like a Bricasti style reverb, on one of my buses and I've had I've always had Valhalla, Vintage Verb, and I've had that Seventh Heaven. And then I recently this year got the Relab stuff and this Tai Chi. And this Tai Chi is a really interesting reverb. I know Ben's already talked about it, but kind of the ensemble stuff that it does, and then just the versatility of it. Like, it does a lot of different reverb sounds really well. And so while it's that and the Waves Factory Quantum, I haven't gotten to use a lot. Like, I've already used Incinerator and P42. I can tell that they're going to be, some amongst my favorites. So that would be my 5. Cool. Oh, and then just to kind of throw something here that I completely forgot about, because you were just talking about they've ended up all being software. And I just remembered one piece of hardware that I would put on the list if I went back and rethought about this, and that would be the Strymon Starlab.
Yeah, that was a nice bit of gear, that for sure.
So
right,
what do you got, Robbie?
Okay, here we go. So effects, I'm not massively into effects. I think we have this kind of discussion the other week when we were talking about I'm just kind of happy using what's built into Logic or whatever. But I do have a bunch of them. I don't often make the best use of them, but I did have some favorites that I had. So let me tell you. I did put this in kind of reverse order of how I felt about them. So first up was Sample Logic's animation station. So not so much an effect as a utility, but what I really liked about this, as someone who doesn't have huge amounts of keyboard chops, I like to be able to have something that will give me something that is technically quite good, and then I can build on that. So it's almost like having a gifted younger brother that can just come along and do something, and I say, right, off you go, and I'll carry on from here. And I like the fact that you can really get into the detail of how it does what it does, by holding down the chord and the velocities, the arpeggiation types, the rates, the transpositions. It's all really very, very useful, and it comes with a whole massive bunch of presets to kind of just get the creative juices flowing. But of course, you can build your own. You can just kind of draw stuff in. So I really like that. Next up was another utility, which I really like, was Audio Modern's Chord Jam. And as soon as Ben mentioned Filter Step, I thought, that's just as good. But I'm kind of glad that I picked this one because at least it highlights both of them. Again, Chord Jam is this kind of thing where it is just like hold down a note and you tell it what key you want it in and what scale, and you can then mess around with how often notes are played, the velocity of the notes in the chord, the intonations, and you can really get very detailed into. Or you can just pick a whole bunch of presets and just it is very much a one key thing, but a lot of people think those are cheating. I like to think them as inspiration stations, to use that kind of corny marketing speak. It really does, just go, that sounds good. And then you can export it as MIDI and then tinker with it as much as you like outside of that. So I really do like that. I thought, and again, for the price, it's really very, very good indeed. The next one is a big favourite of mine. It's not a new product, it's just the new version of the product, but that for me qualifies it. And it's something that I use in my professional capacity quite a bit, outside of music as well as inside, and that's Isotope's RX9, which is just witchcraft. It's just utter witchcraft. I don't know how they do it, but I'm so glad that they do. Doing a lot of podcast interviews that I do, you would be absolutely amazed at how many really, really good, very well-known musicians don't have decent microphones, and they're coming at you from a pair of AirPods, and that's it, or their built-in laptop mic. It's a little scary sometimes, but for those occasions, RX9 just saves the day pretty much every time. I can just run it through either the automated wizards, if you will, or I can just get in there myself and use a tool at a time to kind of pick out all this stuff. So it's invaluable. It was one of the best investments I've made. Yeah. It wasn't cheap to get the whole, the full on kit, but it really does save the day.
What does it retail at that?
I can't remember now because I bought it a few years ago and I just do the upgrade. But it's a few hundred, I think. It's about $399 for the whole package.
Right. Yeah.
And then there's like a pro package or something beyond that. But the standard, I think, is about $399. I might be wrong. Don't quote me on that.
It can come with a few other like combinations of stuff, like the music suite or the post-production suite, and those would be like
there's a whole bunch of deals. And their upgrade path is really good. And if you've like a lot of software manufacturers now, when you buy some of their stuff, you'll get discounts off other stuff in their collection. So they're very, very good. And of course, they are doing a subscription service. If that's what you want to go for, you can do that. You can sub to it. So that was number 3. So number 2, got to agree with you guys completely, undeniably. Mr. Wiggly's Incinerator is one of the best, most fun, ingenious, inspiring little plugins. I mean, it's 20 quid for crying out loud, or it's 25 and it's on offer for 20 or something. Even at full price, it's a no-brainer. You've got to do it. It's such a crazy idea that really, really, really works. It just does what it says on the tin. It's a really simple, flat interface, no messing. And the only disappointment was that my audio doesn't get fed through to a real-life incinerator at Mr. Wiggly Towers and is processed live and sent back to me.
That's got a few people that apparently. So.
Yeah, I know it's bonkers, isn't it? Absolutely bonkers. And at number 1 in my list, so you guys have all mentioned individual Arturia plugins. I think Ben, you mentioned the Tape 201 and Cryss the June 6. I went with the FX Collection 2 because that came out this year, and that's a bundle of everything. And I think as a collection of effects, if you only can afford to buy one set, that's probably the one you ought to go for because it is so good across the board. And you guys have already highlighted this, the 201 and the June 6 and all the other bits in there. You can do some serious, enhancements or damage to your sound in a good way, of course, with that collection. I just think it's really great value for money. So they're my 5.
I didn't realize you could pick a collection. I would have.
Yeah. Well, we can allow it, but maybe highlight one of them out of there for us. Like, what do you think is the one that you go to the most, or the one that you like the best out of that collection?
I've got to agree with you on that one. It's the June 6 thing. Even though I've got it, in the synthesizer itself, the fact that I can apply it to lots of other things is really nice. And of course, they gave that away for free, didn't they? Initially, that one plugin.
Yeah.
And now it's part of the collection, and I'm just a big fan of the Arturia collections. I think they represent some really good value for money. But I think of all of them, I think that's the one that really kind of stands out the best for me. So if you're going to push me on that, that's what I'll do. So we've got 5 each there, and we've all agreed on Incinerator. So that's got to go on our master list for sure. What about Arturia? Do you want to pick the collection, or do you want to pick out just one of them? I'm happy either way.
It's up to Cryss. I'm happy with it going with the collection as well. Cause
that's fine. We can.
Okay.
You can.
So Arturia FX Collection 2. So I don't think there. Tai Chi was another one that you guys agreed on, and it was one that I didn't, because I wrote my list a little while ago. And then Tai Chi comes out, and I thought, I've already got my list, and I didn't really want to bump anything off. But I am happy to put that one into our 5, given that I completely agree with you guys. It's a really, really useful reverb.
I think it should be in there, really.
Okay, so we'll do that. So that just basically leaves us 2 spaces on our top 5. And looking at our list, so we've got Tascam from IK Multimedia, we've got Filter Step from Chord Jam, we've got Filter Step from Audio Modern, Chord Jam from Audio Modern. We've also got Cryss's P42 and Quantum choices, and we've got RX9 in there and Animation Station.
Well, so I think. Can I just say that both me and Robbie had Lunar Lander in our list before
we did, yeah.
So, and Lunar Lander is absolutely one of my all-time favourites. Like, I use it on everything. So I'm willing for the P42 to go in there.
Okay, all right.
Well, I'll tell you what. Since you're willing to do that, why don't I'll put forward this idea, even though it's not on my list, but I do have the stuff. You guys have separately said chord jam and filter jam. I've also got beat jam, which is really quite interesting, and as well as the chord. I like the chord jam a lot. We could just say like some of the audio modern stuff as being, quite interesting.
So we'll put audio modern down as off, as a package. Okay, that.
Yeah.
Hey,
if
look.
they don't do a package, they should do.
These are our rules.
Yeah.
Nobody, we can make this stuff up as we go along. It's absolutely fine.
Hey, if somebody doesn't like it,
screw 'em. Yeah,
to the
exactly.
right here.
Yeah, absolutely. So that leaves
the pudding.
one space. So we've got to choose from.
Well, what do we have? Wait, what do we have so far?
So
that
far
5?
we've got Mr. Wiggly's Incinerator,
Yeah.
Arturia's FX Collection 2,
Yeah.
Reverb Foundry's Tai Chi,
It's not necessarily the
and then Audio Modern as a package.
And
Even though it's-
P42 was the other one.
So we got P42, you got Quantum was another one to choose from, or RX9. I think it's going to be. I'm leaning towards P42 because the work that Ziad does there needs recognising. Hello, Solar. What do you guys think?
P42 for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it really it's one of those effects that's kind of very subtle, but it's also what it does is really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, RX9 is absolutely fantastic, and like you said, it is a miracle worker. So
Yeah.
it would definitely get an honorable mention if we put P42
Yeah.
on the list.
So are we could decide on P42? Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll have to go with P42 because I've never used RX9, but
Okay. No,
it
that's fair enough.
sounds
Yeah.
it sounds like magic.
So our overall 5 for software plugins of 2021. Do you want to put this in an order, like our favourite down to, or should we just leave it as our top 5 and just pick one? Because the one we all agreed on was Mr. Wiggly's Incinerator.
Yeah.
And I think for 20 quid, you get a hell of a lot of effects for 20
Yes.
quid.
It's definitely the best value plugin
Yeah.
of 2021.
And, it's just so versatile. I just think out of all of those, so shall we say that,
so let's say we have our top 5, and that's the one that we're highlighting.
and that's the one, that's our winner. So we'll just call it a winner. There's no prizes, but it's the one that I think that we all agreed on. So for our viewers, let me just reiterate this. So our top 5 effects for 2021, in no particular order apart from the winner, were Pulsar Modulus P42, the Audio Modern tools, which include Beat Step, Filter Step, and Chord Jam, Reverb Foundry's Tai Chi Reverb, Arturia's FX Collection 2, and our overall favourite for 2021, the winner of effects of PlayStation Network, Pro Synth Network. Who thought of that name? I'll never know. So the Pro Synth Network effects plugin of 2021 is Mr. Wiggly's Incinerator. There we go. Congratulations, Dom. You are our winner. I've got nothing to send you apart from my love and my thanks for your tools and your friendship and your guesting on the show. That, of course, had no bearing on the choice. It's just that it really is, for 20 quid. It's one of those plugins that I think anybody could use and get something really useful from.
Yeah. It's
And I hear that Incinerator 2 will have the live processing feature built in as standard.
yeah.
I can't wait to use that late afternoon when it's middle of the night for him.
Yes, absolutely.
I hope he'll be wearing a stocking cap, like the old Christmas stories, like mother was asleep and I in my stocking cap, and that's how I choose to imagine him in the middle of the night.
Definitely. I'm taking my hat off because I'm getting very hot under the lights and everything, so that's going down there. Okay, right. So
I wanted word it.
that's our effects. So the next category is software instruments. We wanted to kind of make the distinction between the hardware instruments and the software instruments, and also software instruments from software effects, because otherwise the job gets really quite difficult. So, shall we... who wants to go first on software instruments? Should we just do the same again? Start off with Ben?
Yeah, if you want.
Yep. Okay, right.
Okay.
So, hang on. Let me just get my... So, Ben, Cryss, Rob, and overall... Right, fire away.
Okay. In 10th place...
In
in 10th place, we've got... No. In 5th place, we've got the Card Collection 3.
Okay, yep.
Just because that was one... Well, that was one of the Legacy Collection was probably the first collection of anything software I bought.
Yeah,
and,
pretty much, wasn't it?
and I remember it being really, really good at the time, and things moved on a little bit, and they updated it all, didn't they? And the graphics got a big refresh, like recently, and it's still worth having the original, but then they add to it with each time the collection got the collection 2 got the Triton added, and I think and some other bits and bobs, and now they've added to it with the what was that synth that you used to you
The
started
700?
playing on? The 700, yeah.
Yeah.
They've added that, and it's a beautiful like render of that. It's like feels pretty good when you load it up. You think that like you got the real thing, like, and then they've put the Triton Extreme in there as well, I think.
Yeah.
And the Triton, I've got like the rack Triton rack, and for its time, it's still a pretty useful thing. And to have that as a piece of software where you've got access to so many sounds, and the Extreme version is like everything.
Yeah.
It's just really convenient, for your bread and butter stuff. And the Prophecy's in there as well now.
It is,
so,
yeah.
And that's like, I know you've always sworn about, how good that is.
Oh, yeah.
The one that you've got. But it was a real surprise for me that it's...
It was a very pleasant surprise, yes.
Yeah, it's got some real uniqueness to it, and it comes in handy, that plugin on its own. So
Yeah.
that is definitely in my top 5, and deservedly so. It's a cracker. Number 4, I've gone for the Arturia June 6V
Yeah.
because
Great synth.
it's not. I've got a running theme going through my top 5 here, and this is not the best of the others that's in it, but it still sounds really nice, and it's still very usable, and it's so easy to get a sound going on it. It's basically, I don't know what it is about this one, but I can pretty much get most sounds that analog sounds that I'm after. I can get them out of this without too much like crying and sobbing. This seems to work for me. Number 3, for the same reasons, but it's up higher because it sounds better, is Roland Cloud's Juno 60.
Okay.
And I don't care so much for the look of it too much. It's all right, but I don't like any of the Roland Cloud stuff really, for the graphics and the preset system and what have you. But it sounds great. It sounds really good, and it sits in a mix really well, and I really love it. I use it a lot, and so much so that I recently, this is how much I love it, I cancelled my subscription, but this was one of the 2 that I kept.
Okay, because your lifetime.
Yeah, so I didn't want to get rid of that.
Uh-huh.
Then at number 2, I've gone radically different here. This is Soft Tube's Model 84, which, for those who don't know, it is a software version of the same synth that the other 2 were.
There's a theme here, I sense.
But for me, this one is the best of all 3. It's,
right.
It's a belter, and the software looks superb on screen. It sounds awesome. It's all battered and old, and it's got stickers on it, and It's just really good. They're good fun to use.
It's got stickers on it.
Yeah, I'm sure it has. I'm sure it's got bits of crap stuck all over it. And
Gaffer tape residue.
It looks old, yeah. It looks as though it's been round the mill a bit, like. And,
I can see why you like it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's got a belting sound. It's dead rich and fat sounding, really good. But the king of all software synths released last year, last year, whenever this is going out, is for me GeForce's OBE, which is incredibly powerful. You can guarantee that it's always going to sound great in your track. It never sounds. You never put it in somewhere and think, oh god, I'm going to have to swap that for something else, because it's a lot of the time I replace soft synths with a hardware sound. You know, like when I'm doing the final thing, like you don't need to with OBE. And I remember saying, I think I said it to Dave when he was on the show. I said, OBE is the only soft synth I can absolute guarantee that is going to do a convincing analog pad. You know, like it sounds real. It sounds really real, and it couldn't be beaten this year by anything for me. I think it's, and like, I paid full whack for it. You know, Dave didn't do me any favours, didn't even give me a discount or anything, and I'm still saying it's good.
Yeah, so it's got to be good.
Yeah.
Got to be good. Cool. Excellent. Well, that's a good choice. Cryss, let's go to you.
Right.
What were your 5 soft synths?
Yeah, I've quickly ordered them. In 5, I would put VCV Rack 2 that just came out. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, for people that want to do modular stuff but don't want to spend the money on that or want to save presets or all that kind of stuff, it has been a really interesting piece of software. I'm desperately waiting for the AU version so I can use it in Logic. In fact, I'm getting ready to sell a handful of Eurorack stuff and just kind of keep more of the monosynth type things that I have because of VCV Rack 2. And so, I mean, I've got a lot, I think it's a little, I don't know if it's on screen or not, but I've got a lot of the mutable instruments, the actual mutable instruments ones, not clones. And I mean, it's just so much easier to go to VCV Rack these days for me. And I can build stuff and kind of improve on it over time without having to take photos or whatever. So that would be in 5th. And 4th would be Martinique's AX73, which, you know, similar to Ben. I mean, we're kind of talking mid-'80s Junos and synths that are kind of in that general category. And the AX73 is kind of one of those great, like, beautiful pad tones. A very interesting synth that I don't think most people know a whole lot about. That Martinique has been doing great software emulations. In fact, I think the Martinique stuff was some of the first stuff I really read about, and back in the day when he was getting started, there were some of the first plugins that I got. So wanted to mention that one. In number 3 would be Expressive E Imagine. And so that was a modeling synthesizer that was a collaboration between Expressive E and what's the other company? AAS? I can't remember what it stands for, but they have the
Applied
chromophone.
Acoustic Systems, I think.
There you go. Yeah. So I like the chromophone, but the Imagine looks better. There's some things about it that I like better. And so for something that kind of takes me out of the usual, which is a lot of like, you know, kind of straight up analog modeling or some of the classic digital stuff, this is kind of, you know, a third way to go and is really inspirational sounding. It will hit your computer here pretty hard, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
All right, so for number 2 and number 1, these are the 2 software analog modeled synths that to me have raise the bar. And I love Ben's list, and I agree with a lot of it. And so the June 6 from Arturia is absolutely fantastic sounding for a Juno 6. But I'm awfully fond of the 106 and have one right behind me in the closet. And the one that really does it more than Rolling Cloud, more than even Arturia for me, is the Soft Tube Model 84. And it's an astoundingly good sounding synthesizer. The only complaint I've had about it is that they didn't include an extra envelope like Arturia and Roland did. Okay. But sound-wise, it is so good that, again, why am I going to go dig through the closet when I can just pull this up? It's that good. And in any other year, it would be number one, had it not been for the number one this year, which I also agree with Ben, is the GeForce OBE, and it was a model of the synthesizer that I have just been dreaming about. And there's been a couple others out by Plug-in Alliance and Arturia, but sadly they have fallen far short of the original hardware. Mm-hmm. And OBE is the one that really nails it. It sounds so amazing. That would be my number one.
Okay, good
All
list.
All right, Rob.
Good list. Right. Okay. There are, as you might expect, at least one or two crossovers with you guys. So in reverse order, JD800 was my fifth.
Yeah, very nice.
Because I am, as everybody knows, I love my digital stuff. And I love that era of Roland's digital stuff. I mean, I'm very au fait with the sound canvases, which had there's a lineage there with the JDs and the JVs. And whenever you hear the JD800, there are so many great recognizable sounds on there. To have that as part of your Roland Cloud subscription, which I'm a subscriber, I still think it's a good deal, and it is, I think, going to be my lifetime key choice for this round, because I've already got the D50 in there as well, and I think I've got one of the Junos. I can't remember now, but yeah. It was nice to have it when they did the model expansion. Sorry, that was the words I was looking for. Yeah, it was nice to have those sounds, but again, synths are visual things, and I think to actually now see that interface and be able to interact with it on the screen. I've never had the joy of playing a real one. Everyone that I know who has had one loves it and thinks it's a great keyboard. I'd love, maybe one day to add one to the collection, but post red glue offences. And I always, I just still think, I honestly do think, this wasn't just a joke. I think Roland really missed a trick in not having a laugh, a little wink and a poke at themselves, not take themselves too seriously, by doing something. So after 30 minutes of the plugin being active, a little red goo squeezes out of the bottom of the keys. I really think they should have done that, because Roland come in for a lot of flack, and in a lot of cases it's completely justified, and in others not so much. And I just think if you can poke fun at yourself, you kind of like saying, all right guys, look, we don't take ourselves too seriously. Here's a funny thing, and it's such a well-known fault with this otherwise brilliant machine. It would have just been cool. But other than that, it's great to have those sounds. So that was my fifth one. The fourth one, again, slightly predictable, but I'm always on the lookout for a really good software version of some of the stuff that I have behind me here. And Plogue's OPS 7, Chipsynth OPS 7, I think, to give it its full name, came completely out of the blue, had no idea this thing was going on. And it is a brilliant bit-perfect emulation of the DX7 engine. Now, there are lots of DX7 plugins, free and paid for. DexEd is great. You've got Arturia's own one. Propellerhead had one for a while. They've got a new FM type synth as well. But as far as like direct emulations, Native Instruments, there are lots to choose from. But the Plogue one is the one that is actually they've sat down for a very long time with a real DX7 and reverse engineered it and replicated it to the bit level. And when you put it up against an original, it's almost indiscernible. Add to that the fact that it can also work as a sysx librarian and patch editor for the hardware, as well as its own software engine. I mean, that's not new. DexEd does that really well. But this is really useful. What I really enjoyed about OPS 7 was the fact that it had the dual layer function. So it kind of does what a DX1 and a DX5 does. So you can have two engines playing at the same time and put two sounds together. And that's when FM really starts to go above the stuff that it gets ridiculed for. When you could actually combine sounds together. My only quibble with this, and the reason it's not higher up in the list, and it's not a criticism per se. We spoke to the developer, and we're hoping we're going to get him on next year. And I said, look, you've done this kind of DX1, DX5 bi-timbral function, but you're not compatible with the performance patches from those two synths. And wouldn't it be great if that was possible? And he said we wanted to do that. But we couldn't find a DX1 or a DX5 to model, and we won't just make it up as we aren't. They're not prepared to just kind of go, yeah, it'll be a bit like that, and we'll do it. They want to do it properly, so credit to them for doing that. But during the conversation, I said, look, I know a bunch of users around the world. If you want me to try and find someone close to you, let me know. And then, like the day later, he said, oh, you're not going to believe this. We had an email from someone in the Montreal area who's got a DX5. So he said, I can't promise you, but who knows? So that could be a really interesting thing, because the DX1 and the DX5 really do fly the flag for great quality FM synthesis, particularly DX style synthesis. So that's my position 4. Position 3, I completely agree with Ben on this one. Chord Collection 3. The very fact that it included the 700 and the Prophecy alone was worth the upgrade price. I've had a lot of issues with Korg and the Chord Collection in terms of their pricing structure. It doesn't reward existing users as well as it could. They make upgrades quite expensive, and it is a pricey package overall. When you consider what you get in Chord Collection 3 against what you get with Arturia's V Collection 8, or even Roland Cloud as a collection, you're not getting anywhere near as much stuff, and it's quite expensive. However, that said, the Prophecy to actually have a Prophecy in software at last is amazing. Again, I think they slightly missed the trick with not making it possible to use it as an editor for the hardware. That would have been a nice touch. And then the Korg 700S, as Ben mentioned, it's the first synth that I ever put hands on and started playing with and going, ooh, what's this? And so to have a version of that, I think it's the patch that it fires up with, is such a brilliant patch. And you can just sit there noodling all day long on this one patch. But then you start digging into it and doing all the things that you can do with it. It's a fantastic model. Tritons, I never really got into the whole workstation thing. But that said, there's so much stuff in there that you'd be hard-pressed to not find something that you couldn't use in a composition. And, of course, all the other stuff that that's already there. Such as the MS-20, the Poly 6 and all that. They're really, really good versions of those instruments. But for the Prophecy and the 700 alone, Chord Collection 3 gets my vote. Second in my list, Arturia's SQ80V. Yet again, they've done this thing. They've pulled something out of the hat, left field almost. It was a little bit spoilt by that. Do you remember that person that did a live Twitch stream or something and just had it on screen?
Quote unquote producer.
Yes, quite. So it was a little. The surprise was spoilt a little, but the anticipation levels went up. And of course, when it dropped, it was, the whole Ensoniq stuff. I remember. I've never owned the hardware, but. I used to play in this band where a keyboard player had, I think it was either a Mirage. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a Mirage. And, it kind of sat in between your high-end sampling stuff and your really crappy, cheapy, rubbishy stuff. And it was there, and it had a character, and it was a really great price point. And I'm surprised nobody's really. I mean, there have been some SQ80 emulations over the years, but to finally get that with all of the stuff that it can do, and they've expanded on that, it's a really, really great instrument. And I particularly like their promo video that they did with the inventors of the real one, the hardware one, who just said, this is fantastic. I can't believe we're playing this instrument in 2021 in such a great way. So that gets my vote for second. And for my first favorite software synth of 2021, I hate to not follow the script, so I'm going to OBE. It's just brilliant. The attention to detail, the sound, the interface, everything about it is just bang on. It's unquestionable. I know that some people are upset that there was no PC version at launch, and it should hopefully be coming very soon. They've not made any promises, but they've explained why. We won't go into that. But it is, I mean, our outro music is OBE. And it was just, I just knocked that out in like sort of 10, 15 minutes. I just started picking some chords, and it just invited you to carry on doing it. And it just kind of flowed. And any instrument that can, make that flow happen is up there in my book. But it's a stunning sounding synthesizer. And the attention to detail and the additional little bits that they've put in there just make it a complete instrument. So without a shadow of a doubt, that is my number one software synth for 2021. So we agreed on that for sure, across the board. You guys both went for Softtube 84. I mean, there's 3 or 4 instances of a Juno type clone in there. Would you want to pick that one as one of our top 5? Yeah,
I think that should wipe out my other Junos. Probably.
Okay, so we'll do that. So Softtube 84 for sure. 2 of us mentioned Core Collection.
Why don't you put that on there? I'll agree to that.
Yeah, okay. So we'll do that. Core Collection 3. So then we have 2 left over. So should we ignore the other Junos since we've got Softtube in there? Yeah, okay. So that basically leaves us with Imagine, AX73 from Martinique, VCV Rack 2, SQ80V, JD800 and OPS 7. So we need to pick 2 from that list there. Are any 2 of those jumping out at you?
Well, I was going to add the JD800 in my list, and I'm not sure why I didn't now, but I didn't. But it is in my worth a mention section.
Okay.
So you can stick the JD800 in for me, if you know. Oh, I'll tell you why I was going to add it, because even though I've got a real one, when I cancelled my Roland subscription, it was it was the Juno 60 and the JD800 that I kept. Yeah. Even though I've got a real one, so it says something about it.
I'm inclined to go along with Chris's choice of the AX73 for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's really good. And number 2, it's a brave choice of a synth to do, and they did it really well. And there's nothing else quite like it out there. So I think that by its own uniqueness...
I really appreciate that they did. I wish more software synthesizer makers would do is they provided 2 GUIs for it.
Yes.
One is the classic keyboard view of it. It looks just like the original, like you're sitting in front of it. And the other is the more ergonomic, kind of rectangle view of it on the screen.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like Martinique and the JD800 then?
I like the AX. I like it as well because it's got 2 layers, so it does more than the original did. It's like you can double up. It's almost like the DX5 version of the AX.
But I like the fact that nobody else has ever done that, and it was kind of a brave choice, and is a kind of it has a unique tone and character to it that I think
Yeah,
so
it is good.
I'm happy to put the AX73 in. if we all are.
Yeah.
So that leaves the last one. Now, you guys have kind of both said JD800, and I know I said the JD800. But I'm more inclined to favour the SQ80V over the JD800. Simply because the JD, again, it's in the same way the AX73 is the only kind of version of that out there. The SQ80V is really, I mean, wasn't there a freeware version of it that was originally
SQ8L, I think.
Yeah, that's it.
Something similar to that, anyway.
But it was developed as a plug-in, as an actual like a modelled plug-in, and then it kind of the developer stopped doing it, and then somebody came along and said, right, well, I've still got this in functioning, so I'm going to sample everything and then put that out as a sampled version of the plug-in. So it's not really as flexible as, and I just think the SQ80V does. Because of the way it does things with wavetables and stuff, I just kind of think it's a bit more. Whereas the JD800, I know you can fiddle with stuff, but it is kind of like a preset machine more than the SQ80 in a way. I don't know. What do you think?
I would say I really like some of the pad sounds from the JD800.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you were stuck with one synthesizer, maybe you'd get a little bit more out of the SQ80.
Yeah. What do you think, Ben?
Either one for me.
Are we going to have a fight? I think we're going to have a fight.
It's a tough one because the SQ80 it's a really good model of the synth, but so's the JD800.
Yeah,
it's a tough one.
I'll tell you what. Let's all. We can only pick one.
Okay.
So let's put our hands up, and whoever gets 2 votes, or 3,
right,
we'll get that 5th spot. I'm yeah. So let's say JD800. So that's 2. Well, I was going to say SQ80. So you guys win.
Well, I was going to vote for SQ80 as well.
You can't do that.
Oh.
It's one or t'other. So no, you guys have spoken. We'll put JD800 in the list with an honourable
really
mention.
Gone either way. Yeah.
Yeah. Honourable mention there. So let's just recap for you our overall list for. And we agreed that OBE is going to get the top vote.
Yeah. It was the only one we was unanimous on, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. So our top 5 software synths for 2021 from the ProSynth network, in no particular order, are Roland's JD800 from the Roland Cloud, Martinique's AX73, Korg's Core Collection 3, Softtube 84, and our overall winner for this category is G4 Software's OBE. So well done to Dave Spears and to the development team there as well. The name of the developer has just popped. It was in my head and it's just gone out again. It was the young guy. What was his name? I can't remember his name. But anyway, young GeForce chap, you did a fantastic job, and you need to take the credit for it if you haven't already, because that was a brilliant piece of work. Hugo.
Yes. Hugo, Tom.
Well done, Hugo. And I look forward to more of your work coming out of the GeForce stable in 2022, hopefully. So there you go. So there are software synthesizers. We now have one category left, which is the hardware synths. We left the juicy stuff. Now, we did have a little meeting before we went to record, and we went through our lists of 5, and Cryss very appropriately pointed out that 1 or 2 of our choices weren't 2021 because it kind of gets all blurry, particularly in these COVID times. Shall
I put the Bah Humbug bug hat on?
Yeah, I'll pass it over. Look, I mean, a lot of the time synthesizers get announced and ordered, and then they don't necessarily appear until such and such a time. So one of the synths on my list I ordered, because it was available to order in 2020, but it didn't ship to me until 2021. And I got one of the first units, so I can safely say that that's a 2021 synth. However, there will be, and we'll mention that some of the examples that were clearly not, and I thought they were. But
you want to start us off?
Well, no, let's keep the format going. We'll start off with Ben.
Okay.
because that's how I've got it written down on my list here. So we'll do that. So give me your top 5 hardware synthesizers of 2021.
Right. Well, I when I was going back looking through what had been released, a lot of the things, like you were saying, Rob, a lot of the things were released before.
Yeah.
And I was made up with them since. So I've adjusted my list slightly to accommodate these errors. In 5th spot, I've got Waldorf M, and that is purely because it's got a big red knob on it. And so's Electromantics. And
see what you did there.
I've got a microwave, and
I've got one in the kitchen.
I've got a microwave in the rack over there. And
is that for your pasties?
Yeah.
Sorry, I will stop.
I do love it, but I like the idea of it being modernised a little bit, but still keeping that sound.
Yeah.
And from what I can gather, that's what Waldorf have done here. It's everything that was great about the original microwave, but it's got all more modern features.
It's got all the PPG stuff in there as well, isn't it?
Yeah, which is superb. So that's definitely in there. Number 4, I haven't got one of these, but I think that I've got to mention it because I think I've been involved in demos through the show, and I know quite a bit about it because of yourself, Rob, and yourself, Cryss, and also Dr. Manny Fernandez. It's a great bit of kit, and it should be in the list whether I've got one or not. So the Kodomo Essence FM Mark II is in there. Now,
Very good.
this choice, also I haven't got one of these. I've got nothing. I've got nothing in this list.
Again, there's a theme here.
Yeah, but I do like this, and I'll explain a little bit why. I wanted to pick the 2600 by Korg, the ARP, but then I found out that it was too early, so I've gone for the mini one, which kind of contradicts why I've picked it in the first place, because the reason I like it is I like the idea of a licensed replica.
Yeah.
I've got nothing against what Behringer do, but if you haven't got the original, then a licensed replica is the next best thing. And if it's a replica, it's got to be the same size, really, because it's not a replica if it's smaller. So I've put the Korg 2600 in there, and I've had to put the mini one in there because that was the only one that come out in this year. But what I like about it is the fact that it's an authentic licensed replica, and I think that's a really good thing, and we should have more of that.
Absolutely.
These things, technology moves on, and a computer from 20 years ago is no good, but a synth is.
Yeah.
And so there's no reason to ditch them just because that technology isn't going anymore. It's something that was great in 1980. Still sounds great now. You know, it's for me anyway. Not all of it, but certain ones definitely. And we should be able, like you can buy a Strat now. You should be able to buy the old classic keyboards as well.
Yeah.
I think. And for a similar reason, my number 2 choice it's exactly the same, really. I wanted to put the Prophets in there from Sequential, and I couldn't, so I've had to put the desktops in there. But I think that's great anyway, because before I had the luxury of this room, which is a decent size, I was in like a little shoebox of a room, and even if I had the money for a Prophet 10, I wouldn't have been able to fit it in anywhere. So the desktop is a fantastic way of getting your hands on that original technology and sound, and it's authentic. It's by the guy who made it in the first place, and it should be there. I think it's a cracking sounding synth, and in a desktop it's great.
Yeah.
And my number 1 choice, another one that I haven't got, but I have kind of got one. I've gone for the ASM Hydra Synth Deluxe, and the reason is because I've got a Hydrosynth. It's over there, and I love it. But one of the things that's always annoyed me about it slightly is the amount of keys. I think that it's a fantastic controller. It's a brilliant. It'd be a brilliant center of the studio, you know. But 4 octaves, having a polyphonic aftertouch keyboard with 4 octaves isn't great for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's 76 key, the deluxe, is it?
It is, yeah.
That a 76 note aftertouch, poly aftertouch keyboard in the center of the studio, and it's got the dual engines as well, because one's really good, but like what you'd be able to do with 2 would be incredible. And
you can put your packed lunch on the right hand side and keep it warm.
Yeah, you've got that as well. It's only got, I think it's only got 8 controllers in the middle, you know, where you can assign the macros and everything. But if you use them cleverly with your synths, it makes a great like master controller in the studio, the Hydrosynth. It's just the reason that it isn't there for me now is that I wanted more keys.
Yeah. That's a good list. It's a good choice. Some good choices there. I mean the Prophet stuff. It was part of my shortlist.
Yeah.
And then when we found out or realised that it was last year, it was a shame. But still haven't got one. It's still on my list. But yeah, definitely good stuff there. Christopher, how about you? Your top 5 hardware synths.
So number 5, continue a theme of the Hydrosynth Explorer version.
Oh, okay.
I don't aim to buy one of these, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. I have the rack mount, or the desktop. I was thinking about rack mounting it, but I might leave it as a desktop for now. This smaller version, I think, is going to be incredibly popular. The price is great versus other synthesizers in that price range and that size. This thing just destroys them.
Yeah.
The way that they put a lot of attention into the keys. So even on, I can't remember their specific nomenclature for the keys, but they're not just the normal mini keys. They're semi-weighted, poly aftertouch.
Yeah.
They've really spent the time to make sure that the feel of it is right, and that's usually, last time I was up at Perfect Circuit, one of my complaints is like I went and tried a bunch of synthesizers that I'd seen a bunch of, so like the Mini Log and Monolog and the Jupiter XM, and they all felt like crap. The only mini ones was the Argon felt great, and it had a real FITAR keybed. So this Hydrosynth Explorer, I think it's really going to be massively popular. It has a full Hydrosynth engine in it, and so as far as like the amount of synthesis you can do in a tiny little keyboard, outrageous. So it had to be on the list for those reasons. At number 4, to go the complete opposite direction about pretty much everything, and this isn't a synthesizer, but it is a keyboard, and I would have to go with the Rhodes Mark VIII electric piano, and I look forward to hearing about it next week, and by the time people are watching this, we've already had a talk about it. But
he was on last week.
Yeah, I mean, it will have been great.
Yes, it will.
So that is really an amazing thing. And so one of the most iconic keyboards of all time, to come back. Also an Alex Hartman design. It's gorgeous. It sounds amazing. There's everything to like about it except for the price.
Well, yeah.
Only because I can't afford it. So that's definitely a dream machine and worthy of mention, because it is bound to be yet another classic Rhodes electric piano. In number 3, I have the... so I don't believe this is being sold, but it was just kind of announced and demoed. And we talked a bit about on the show, and that's the Future Retro Vectra. And so it is. There's not many synthesizers that it's like, oh yeah, we've seen that before. This is something that's quite different. It's got the 4 XY controller joysticks. The synthesis sounds really cool on it. It does have the capacitance keybed, which looks a lot better than the microfeet keybed. But the sounds that we've been hearing from it that they've been putting out on the YouTube site have been very interesting. I'm really looking forward to hearing this one or having to play with it, because I think it would be a great engine for sound design. So high marks for originality and something that will be, I think, a very fun synthesizer. All right, number 2 is just something that's really impressed me and something that I bought. It was my synthesizer purchase for the year, and that is the, right next to me, the Kodomo Essence FM Mark II. And the preset system drives me mad. I hate it. The voices... You mess with something and it messes with all the patches with that voice in it, and I think that really needs to be fixed. It bothers me. Okay, so why is a synth so high on my list? Because it drives me nuts. It sounds fantastic, and it is so easy to program. Love the big screen on it. The way things are laid out is very good, and so... programming FM on there is a joy. And, I hear a lot of people talk about FM engines like, well, FM is FM. They should kind of all sound the same. Like, I don't really hear it that way.
No.
And so as far as some of my favorite FM engines go, I mean, the Essence FM is tops by far, by a country mile. I mean, had I spent time as you, Rob, with a DX5 or DX1, maybe I would think differently, but I haven't. So taking that into account, I think that this is, and also I really enjoyed FM, which was a soft synth by Traction that was released this year. Between those two, I feel pretty satisfied. I mean, I also got the Op7, which of course is going to be the most accurate to a DX7, but the Essence FM, to me, wipes the floor with it for sound. It sounds really good. So that is number 2 for me. Number 1 is something I am planning to buy, but they're having a little harder time making it to store, and that would be the Hydrasynth Deluxe. And so I've already had the Explorer on the list. I have the rack mount version, but the Deluxe really seems to be a sweet spot of everything you get with it. As far as the engine goes, it's one of the most versatile synthesizers on the market, between virtual analog and wavetables and FM and all the kind of things that it can do is so radically diverse. Then you consider that what you get in the hardware with 7 octaves of polyphonic keybed. You got 2 Hydrasynth engines in it, as you guys Ben has already talked about. And then the price point of it being something like $17.99 in the US really makes it. I mean, it's just killing everything in its price range. And quite a few other synths that are more expensive. So I would have to go with Hydrasynth Deluxe as the probably number 1.
Sure, good selection there. And say we got some crossover. So I think our overall list is already taking shape. But let me add my 5 pennies into the pot. My number 1 choice, which I'll come to, obviously, I'm going to argue the toss. But if you want to fight me for it, then please feel free. But let's go with this one. So. In 5th position, Sonicware Live and XFM. Now, yes, I know I'm known as an FM freak, a fan, whatever. And yes, when I saw this, of course, I was instantly attracted by the FM aspect. What I particularly like about this, there are a few things. The first of all, it's a kind of a new company, Sonicware. They've been around for a little while, but they've just started doing this range of platform synths, the Livens. So first you had the 8-bit warps, then you had XFM, and then there's this new Beats and Bass, I think it's called. But they all use this kind of platform, and it's a really cool little platform. It's a really nice box. It's very well made. It's portable, it's battery powered, it's mains powered, it has a speaker built in if you want to use that. It's very well thought through. There is a bit of menu diving. There's only a little 3-digit LED display in there. But that said, the way this does FM is very much like the way that the early FM stuff before the DX came along. So the things like the GS1 and 2 and the CE20 and CE25, and it uses cross-modulation FM. So rather than algorithmic, where you stack operators into a carrier stroke modulator configuration, cross-modulation, basically you you take an operator and modulate a carrier, and then you take that output and you then cross-modulate that with another operator and another modulator in the carrier, and it develops a very rich sound. And some of the sounds on this, I played something on here, I think it was after a show or before a show, I played some chords and everyone was like, oh, that sounds good, what's that? And when I said it was this live in XFM, they're like, that sound came from that machine. And it really does sound very big and impressive. And you've got 4 tracks of recording on there, and it is essentially a little groove box, but that uses FM, and it uses it in a way that hasn't often been done. And I really, really like that. And it was so affordable. I think I paid like £180 plus shipping charges from the Far East, which wasn't a huge amount of money, and that included a power supply and a custom case, because I think that was like a pre-order thing. You get the custom. So it was just fantastic. It came in at less than £200 all in. You can't buy many synthesizers for less than £200 or dollars that can do as much as this does. So that definitely got my vote for one of the synths of the year. I tried to pick stuff that I used across all 3 categories, but I have to go with you guys on this one as well. And I haven't tried one, but I do believe that in terms of everything that it offers at the price point, the Hydrasynth Deluxe is outstanding. ASM have come along literally out of nowhere. We all know, I think, if you know the story of ASM, you know where it sprung from, and the people like Glenn Darcy who are driving it have been in the business a long while. But ASM was this new kid on the block, and basically jumped on stage and said to everyone else in the business, this is how you should be doing it. Polyphonic aftertouch, great keybed. I agree that the 49 was the original 49 key was a good synth, but maybe if it had been a 61, I think it would have been an even better thing. However, now they can offer you the Explorer and the Deluxe, so you have a choice, and that's, I think, great. It's something that Modal have done very well at. You now have a choice. You have a desktop, you have a portable version, which amazingly features polyphonic aftertouch and semi-weighted keys on a MIDI key size board. You got the original, and then you've got the Deluxe, and I think the Deluxe just represents it. Kind of the Deluxe feels to me like was it the JX10, which was a dual engine synth, and the DX5, which was a dual engine synth. It harks back to those classic days of the 80s when the only way to improve on a synthesizer was to put 2 in the box, and that's what they've done, and it's stunning. And the sounds, everything I've heard, that's come out of the outputs of one of these things has just been amazing. And all of that synth for that money is insane, and it's just brilliant. And if I had the space, it would be very much near the top of my to buy list in 2022. But I think we've said everything we can say about that. It's just an amazing synth. Right down the other end of the scale again, another great synth that came out this year, IK Multimedia's Uno Synth Pro. A 3 oscillator genuinely paraphonic synth that sounds incredible. The quality is just really, really good. They've done the similar thing that Modal did. They've got a 37 key version, but instead of going in the kind of the module route, They've got the desktop version, which has the capacitive keyboard. That's the one that I've got. But internally, in terms of the engines, it's exactly the same. And it just carries on that tradition that IK have started with a really affordable, simple to understand, simple to operate, but quite a deep engine. And some of the sounds I'm getting out of that, I'm thinking, wow, this is incredibly powerful for what it is. And for me, it's my first genuine paraphonic synthesizer. And that takes a bit of getting used to, because playing with a paraphonic synthesizer it requires a knowledge, so yeah, it's really, really good. And there's some great patches on there. The fact that it's got an expanded sequencer, because that was one of the complaints with the original Uno synth, that it was just like a 16-step sequencer and you couldn't chain things together. So now you've got something that's much more expanded, 64 steps, I believe. And it's really deep. You can get really deep with it, or you can just jump in and start playing around. It's just a great little synth. The only complaint, the only reason it's not any higher on my list, is that the desktop version, for me anyway, has suffered with its USB power. And I think I've mentioned it on the show a few times, that it's very fussy about where it gets its power from in order to work as it should. I was powering it from... I've tried loads of different things, powering it from powered USB hubs to... mains adapters that have USB power or USB powered sockets in them, to batteries, and I've eventually found a power source that delivers the right amount of power and doesn't go out, means the synth doesn't go out of tune, and it's not as noisy. That was it was just a real pain in the backside, that one. And I have spoken to IK about it. I don't know whether they'll ever address that. That was the only thing that let it down. And that only affects the desktop version. The keyboard version comes with its own PSU, albeit a custom PSU, but it's a mains PSU nonetheless, and it doesn't require USB. And I do wish... I know some synthesizers are designed to be portable or easy connected to a laptop or something, but please do not use USB power anymore on the synthesizer. It just doesn't cut it. But other than that, really great synth. My final two, these two positions swapped backwards and forwards in my head for a number of weeks, and I'm even rethinking it now, but I'm going to stick with what I've written down. So in position 2, like you two guys have got it, the Kodomo Essence FM Mark II. It was a revelation. So when the Mark I first came out, I was really, really interested in it. I thought that the whole user experience and the interface was exactly what FM needed. Visualized, touchscreen, ARM-based processors are really fast. I thought it was great, but it was, I don't know, it's brand new and it's a small company and never done anything before, and it's not cheap, because it was something like €1,300. And so I kind of hummed and hawed, and I know myself and Simon Alexander, we were both sort of like wanting to buy it, but just not sure that it was going to cut the mustard. And we threw some questions at the guys, and they came right back and said, yes, it's this, blah, 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 we'll answer this, we'll do that. And we said at the time we weren't keen on a couple of things. And the main one was the fact that it's a tabletop unit that can be rack mounted. And the Mark I had the rack ears as part of the physical design. They were actually there. You couldn't get rid of them. And for the desktop, you had these two little plastic feet. And whilst they reassured us that those plastic feet were perfectly fine, they just didn't instill a huge amount of confidence. And to their credit, when they released the Mark II, that was the first thing that they changed, was they put some better... They actually, got rid of the rack ears and made them an option. So it's in the box. You can put them on if you want. And Cryss, I know you've done that. Yeah. I've still got the flat ends on there because I have it on my... It's literally here on my desk, and it's all propped up, and it's solid as a rock, and it's brilliant. Can't fault the build quality. It's stunningly well built. And of course, that engine is insane. I agree with you completely about if you change your voice, it affects everything that you've used that voice on. So you have to think about that. So, I just kind of copy the voices and move them around. And you've got the capacity to do it. Let's be honest. It's not short on capacity. And the fact that it's 300 note polyphonic, 16-part multi-timbral, and a performance patch can contain 16 patches. Each of those patches can contain, 128 voices in each of those patches. Yeah. I mean, you do the mathematics. It's insane. The amount of operators that you've got in any single patch is just bonkers. It really is a crazy, crazy synth, but it's done really well. And it's got a few issues that are not showstoppers. And what I really like about Kodomo is that they are attentive to that. And if you go onto their forum, you can find lots of people saying, "Oh, can we just tweak this? Can we do that?" And they will make those adjustments. And they're rapid, changes that they will do. It's not something that comes out just like every week, but every few months they'll do a point release and they'll fix all of those things that people were talking about. So they're very conscious of their user base, and they've got lots of other things planned as well. So I'm really happy with, it's not something I look at and think, oh God, I wish I hadn't wasted my money on that. It's a really, really good synth. Really good synth. Need to take a swig.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas indeed. Right. Okay, my number one hardware synth for 2021. I'm gonna fight you on this. I know it was officially kind of launched around September of 2020. But as far as I can tell, these things didn't start landing in people's studios until the early part of this year. Yeah. Mine certainly didn't arrive until a little while into it. And it's the Arturia Polybrute. And it's been a revelation. As somebody who's never had an analog poly ever, it's everything that I've dreamt one would be and more. I'm not unfamiliar with analog synthesis. I do have analog synthesizers in my collection, and contrary to popular belief, but it's one of the most inspiring synthesizers, digital or otherwise, or analog or otherwise, that I've ever had the pleasure of using. Every time I turn it on, I will get sucked into it, and I can be there for ages, just noodling around. The implementation of their form of analog synthesis with the multiple, the Brute oscillators, and you've got the Steiner-Parker filter, you've got the ladder filter, you've got all of these controls, and you've got the matrix, which is just so simple to use to start routing things around. It's just bump, 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 and you're done, and something's happening. And the way that you can change things so easily. The arpeggiator's great fun. The sequencer is really simple to use. The effects, the onboard effects, are fantastic. The build quality is like a tank, wood and metal. It's an Axel Hartmann design. So the ribbon controller, the Morphe, and that whole thing is fantastic. It's so expressive. I love expressive synthesizers. On the back, it's very simple. There's not many outputs. You can't, there's not lots of CV and gate stuff. It's just like MIDI and a couple of synchronizing, sync ports. It's just a good analog polyphonic synthesizer that sounds huge. And I know a lot of people made observations, not complaints, observations about the fact that it had a sound that wasn't maybe quite what they were expecting. Some people call it a bit nasally. I just don't hear that. I don't hear that at all. And in fact, I've tried to program some patches on this that were from other synthesizers, and I've managed to get it really, really damn close, as far as my ears are concerned, to sounding like a Prophet 5 in many cases. Because that, to me, is like, that's the archetypal, polysynth for me. That's my age, that's my era. But this thing is just incredible. Yes, it has its own kind of tone, and all synths do. And I like it. It's just very, very expressive. So I know that it kind of launched at the end of 2020, but as far as I'm concerned, it was hitting studios in the early part of 2021, which is why it makes the number one on my list of hardware. So there you go. A
very good argument for it there, I must say. I didn't think of it as being this year, but you are right. It only actually started getting into studios January onwards, didn't it?
Yeah.
And I've not used one either, but
You're
I
a Matrix
love
brute. Yeah.
Matrix Brute is a smaller monophonic version of it, and that's great. So I can understand that it's going to be pretty impressive. Like, yeah.
So, any just looking at it, the things that we agreed on with the Essence FM and the Hydrosynth Deluxe.
Yeah.
So those are definitely on our overall list. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's put EFM and Hydrosynth Deluxe. We'll debate which one comes the top in just a moment. I think that was it as far as terms of things that crossed over were concerned. So we've got three others, that we need to think about putting in there. We've got the Prophet desktops. We've got the Korg ARP 2600. We've got the Waldorf M. We've got the Rhodes, the Vectra, Uno Synth, Live and XFM, and the Polybrute.
It's the most diverse of all the lists so far, this one, isn't it?
Those three positions, I think, are going to be tough to fill.
Well, I might need a toilet break in an hour, so
I might need a toilet break now, actually. I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at that. I think there are arguments for the Prophet. There are arguments for the Waldorf for sure. The Vectra, I think, is a really innovative thing.
Yeah.
But it's not kind of technically really out yet, I guess. I mean, it's kind of launched, but nobody's really had a go with it. It might be one for next year, I think. I don't know, because then it'll be out, we hope. The Rhodes, it's very individual, very expensive. It's a one-trick pony, and I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, but it is. It does one thing, and that's it, and it does it very well. Live and Uno, I think, as far as I'm concerned, I think I would argue more for the Uno Synth Pro out of a lot of those, and maybe the Prophet and the Waldorf. I don't know. What about you? I tell you what, you two have a chat. I need to go, otherwise I'm going to have a terrible accident.
Right, yeah.
But let me just put you two on the screen, and you have at it.
Which way have I got to look to face him?
I don't know yet. I haven't. How do I do this? Oh, here we go. Stop.
No, you got the first time.
You! I'm not having this. Oh, there you go. Right. I think that Robbie actually had a point with the Polybrute, because he forgot to mention as well that there was a bit of a to-do about it only having 6 voices as well, wasn't there? Mm-hmm. But I've not got a problem with 6 voices myself. I just think that, like, he is right. It's got the morphe, it's got that ribbon controller.
Well, my only complaint about it really has been the lack of voices. From every other aspect of it, seems to be a really amazing synthesizer, particularly given all the modulation and the things that you can do with it. And I think it probably has suffered some of the same things that the Moog 1 has suffered in terms of what people think it does and how it sounds, and that you start it in a certain patch or in it or whatever, and they say, well, maybe the oscillators don't sound this way or that way, or we're not hearing the sounds we get. But like he was saying, there's a lot of people that are really spending time with the Polybrute and getting some of the very classic tones out of them, as well as some really interesting things given all the modulation. And I would say that would be a lot like the Moog 1. And for people who don't want to invest into a Moog 1, but want to get at least somewhere, along the way of how much modulation you can do, that thing's really impressive. So
when we had Axel on the show, I can't remember why he said the back didn't tilt up. What was his reason for that?
I don't remember.
Because that is a real deal breaker for me. I think that I think a lot of synths should tilt up at the back. I think it improves them greatly.
So
Yeah,
there was
I'd be-
also the IK Uno synth and the Liven that he had, the Vectra and the Rhodes that I had. And what were the ones that you had that were not the
the
top
2600, the Profits, the desktops, and the Waldorf M. I don't. I mean,
You
two
guys-
of those
So-
are just re-releases, aren't they? So, should they really be synth of the year tackled? Really?
I don't know. So we're pretty good with the Polybrute on there.
Yeah.
I would probably do it at the exclusion of maybe the little ones.
Mm-hmm.
And then, what else we have? Rhodes, the Profits, the Waldorf M, and the Vectra.
I think I feel a bit rotten saying this, but I think that you can't have the Rhodes in there because it's not a synth.
Because it's not a synth.
It's not a synth. And if we're the Pro Synth Network with our top 5 synths, and the Rhodes is in there, we need a keyboard category.
We need wider
Well,
categories,
I
and
mean-
maybe.
I could argue that it's somewhat of a synthetic piano.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's synthesizing a piano sound in some way, isn't it?
it's a remarkable achievement as well.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
To resurrect the brand and get Axel Hartman to do the industrial design on it, and to bring it to market, albeit at a very unique price. But it is very limited. They're only going to make 500, aren't they, each year?
Yeah.
So maybe we'll give it the spotlight for electric piano of the year.
Absolutely,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
we'll give it that.
Definitely.
So what are
Hands
the
down.
other ones? What are
Hammond's
the other
down,
ones?
did you say?
Hands down. Yeah.
So we have the Profit desktops, the Carp 2600, the Waldorf M, the Vectra, Uno Synth Pro, but we're going to discount that as well as the Live and XFM, because the Uno Synth Pro is technically is a keyboard.
I don't mind if we take the Profit and the Korg out because they are just reissues. Really.
Yeah, they're kind of variations on an pre-existing thing. Okay, I'll give you that. Yeah, so that just basically leaves us the Waldorf, the Vectra, Uno Synth Pro.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 spaces. We're going to drop one of those 3. I think we should drop the Vectra because as innovative and exciting as it is, it's not out.
It might be
technically.
number 1 synth next year.
Could be next year, yeah. It can have a crack at the a proper crack at the whip once we've actually maybe had a chance to get our hands on one. I don't know. What do you think?
Because it
Yeah.
is probably one of the most innovative synths that's been out for
Yeah.
a while.
Yeah.
But I also think that in terms of bringing back something has been sorely missed. I think a lot of people have been asking for, a new version of the microwave, a new version of the PPG, and the fact that Waldorf have done it all in one box and then some besides, I think is worth considering. And I think the Uno Synth Pro, as much as some of the annoying things really did annoy me, it is a very good, and it's a little expensive as well. A lot of people have criticised it on the price.
You know what? When I look at that and the Liven compared to the Hydrasynth Explorer, I don't know. The Hydrasynth Explorer seems to kind of clean their clocks
Yeah.
as far as what's. Okay, you want to go this way?
Yeah, I think again the fact that they've managed to squeeze so much into so little a space and yet retain all of those classic Hydrasynth elements such as the polyphonic aftertouch semi-weighted keyboard and an entire Hydrasynth engine into that one box. And what's it going to retail for? It was stupidly cheap.
It's like $5.99, I think.
for what it is. Yeah, it's
That's
crazy.
pretty good, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would as far as like if I were going out to buy, for sure it would clobber the other ones. But I mean, we do have the Hydrosynth Deluxe already on the list, so I don't mind dropping it if it because we already have that other one on there.
Why don't we meet in the middle ground? Why don't we say, because we make the rules, that the Hydrosynth Deluxe and Explorer can occupy one spot?
All right.
Because they both came out at the same time. They're both variations. They're different enough to qualify. So let's do that. So we'll just say the Hydrosynth Deluxe and Explorer can occupy one of the positions. Yeah.
Then would it be the Waldorf M and
Waldorf M,
the
Uno Synth Pro? I think will take up the last two spots. Do you reckon?
Yeah. Well,
sure?
If Cryss is all right with that,
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Uno Synth Pro and Waldorf M. So that basically leaves us one more decision to make. Of the following 5 synthesizers, which of these should be our number one? Now, I'm going to say that we all voted for the Essence FM. So that clearly has some weight behind it. Then we've got the Hydrosynth. Again, we all went for one or both of the Hydrosynths. Polybrute, Uno Synth Pro, Waldorf M. So if I go first, I'll say it's going to be between the Essence, the Hydrosynth, or the Polybrute, in my opinion. Cryss, what are your thoughts?
To me, definitely either the Hydrosynth Deluxe or the Essence FM.
Okay.
I think that it should. I agree with you both, but I think that it should be the Hydrosynth because it's got 2 entries in there. The small one, the Explorer, it is catering for the lower end of the market, and the Deluxe is catering. So they've swept the board with one product in different form factors.
Yeah.
And I think for that I think it should be that one.
And I think as far as, I mean, I think the Essence FM could be considered in this particular way as well. But I think ASM have come onto the scene and bloodied the noses of the establishment.
Oh,
and that's brilliant. I love that in whatever aspect of life. If somebody comes along and says to the establishment, "Hey, look, you're stagnating, or you're messing people around with rubbish gear. This is what you should be doing." I think it's been a wake-up call, and I think they should be applauded.
You get Glenn and Dom, and then to add Kin to that, I mean, they're a company to watch out for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, Hydrosynth?
I think so,
yeah. Okay.
Closely followed by the Essence FM.
Okay, so our hardware synths of the year, in no particular order: Waldorf M, the Uno Synth Pro, the Arturia Polybrute, and the Kodomo Essence FM. But our overall winner of hardware synth of 2021, as voted for by the 3 of us on Pro Synth Network,
didn't ask anybody else.
No, exactly. Is a joint award because they share so much DNA. It is the ASM Hydrosynth Deluxe and Hydrosynth Explorer. Well done to Glenn and his team, and to everyone that's connected to Ash and Sound Machines. You've done an amazing job. You've really upset the apple cart in a very positive fashion, and that can only be applauded. And maybe they'll send us one so we can all have a go. What a great way to. I mean, I think also the fact that they've done so well with the Hydrosynth in all of its forms. It really does make you look forward to what they've got planned next. Hopefully it's going to be even better than this. But what a great way to start. And I do love their pitch bend and modulation wheels with that kind of lead. It's almost like Star Trek, isn't it? It's very nice.
And they change colour depending on what patch.
Oh, really? I didn't know. I didn't realise they changed colour. I know, like the ones on my Fusion, they light up brighter as you go higher, but they don't change colour, but they do light up brighter.
Yeah,
but,
that's nice. Yeah,
yeah.
I think I'm not sure. Do these go a bit brighter as you?
I don't know. I've not seen it. But I just like the fact that you've got that kind of handle. It's only a small handle, but it's a handle nonetheless.
Yeah,
You can go, warp speed, Mr. Sulu.
Well, each sound designer that worked on the original presets, has their own colour, and like Ken.
Oh right.
Ken's obsessed with green, isn't he?
Oh well, yeah.
So all Ken's presets are green, and the pitch bend and the modulation wheel changes to green, as well as
that's clever.
The large control knob in the middle.
I just think the fact that the Hydrosynth Deluxe is, it harks back to that classic 80s paradigm of, we've got a great synth, but we want to make it better. Well, how else can we do that? Well, let's just put 2 in the box, and everyone's happy. And they are.
Yeah.
And because it does work. I mean, DX5 works like that. The JX10 sounds, mega. And the Hydrosynth Deluxe is no different. I think that's just a great way of doing it. Double it up.
I mean, I'm not criticising it now after naming it our top synth, but my head's a bit pickled with the standard one, with the the possibilities there.
Yeah.
Because there's so much, there's so many oscillator types to choose from, vowels and wavetables, and but to have all that twice, it's like whoa.
Yeah.
Bonkers, absolutely bonkers.
But,
so I'm going to ask you guys a question. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up and Santa has been down the chimney, what are you hoping to find in under the tree, or what would you like to find in terms of music technology? That's forgetting what we've talked about today. You can have anything you like, vintage, brand new, whatever. What would you like Santa to deposit from his sack?
Well, I've always wanted a Jupiter 6, so
okay.
If I could have it, Santa, if you're listening, I'll have a Jupiter 6, please.
Okay, Cryss.
Of anything.
Anything. We'll even allow you guitars.
All right. 1959 Gibson Les Paul.
Okay.
Sunburst. Yeah. I mean, who could want anything more?
Yeah. Who could ask for anything more?
That would be mine.
If Santa left me an emulator 2, I would be a very, very happy man. Damn, yeah. Talking of which, I don't know. See, because we're time traveling here.
Yeah.
For the people that are watching this a couple of weeks ago, but just the other day, Alex Ball dropped some pictures on his Facebook page of his latest gear loan, which is an emulator 2.
Yeah. Oh well. Oh, I'm sorry. Carry on.
No. I finished.
I was just going to say, when I was researching before, and I was dying to mention this in the show because it led me on a crazy journey. But one of the things that I looked at was the Korg Nautilus, right?
Okay.
Right. And I watched a video by Anderton's Music, and this, I don't know his name, but this English guy was doing a demo on the Nautilus, and it was really, really good. He was really good. He was a cracking player, and he demonstrated the sounds quite well. And it was like the demonstration was like a discovery for him. He didn't really know anything about it, and he's finding it as he's going along. And so he was dead honest about it as well. Really worth watching. Check that out because it's dead good. But all the way through it, he keeps referring to the Oasis, the Korg Oasis.
Okay, yeah.
Which was leading me to think, the Oasis, even though it was such a flagship at the time, and I know Kent loves his Oasis, maybe like the motifs and the little MX keyboards that I've got, you can get that technology into something much cheaper and plasticky now.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that's what this was, more or less the Oasis technology, which I believe is it's in the Kronos, isn't it? It is like a watered down version of that. Anyway, he said, and we've got an Oasis here, and he did like a cut, and this Oasis appears in front of him, and it is humongous. It is like the biggest synth ever. And then I've been, at this point, I must have listened to like an hour of him playing this Nautilus, and just the first 3 seconds of this Oasis was just like, wow. It just blew it away. There's no way that there's anything to do with that Oasis in that Nautilus, because the sound quality, I had it on in ear through those Yamahas, and it just sounded, even with video compression, it sounded incredible. So that led me into researching the Oasis. And now I've got dead bad Oasis gas.
Well, Kent might be looking to offload to fund anaglyph development. You never know. We'll have a word with him.
It's like, it's a belter, that, isn't it? It's got like so much sound, engines in it, so many sound engines, and it's a hell of a looking machine. Right? It's got that like 88, I think it's 88 keyboard. Yeah.
I think they did a 76 as well.
Well,
but yeah, the flagship's the 88.
Supposed to be going to Kent's on.
I
went to Kent's.
Yeah, we went to Kent's.
I went to Kent's, and I had to go. I had to go with this Oasis.
Was it good?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
So
but I've either got gas worse or less now. I can't really work it out because I'm confused. I'm jet lagged.
So here's the thing with the Oasis, right? So I got into the Korg stuff in the mid-90s with the Prophecy, and when you research the Prophecy, you find that the multi-oscillator synthesis system, or MOS, was a derivative of the Oasis, the Korg Oasis platform, which has nothing to do with the Oasis that you're referring to, the workstation.
Oh, right.
So Oasis was Open Architecture Synthesis System, I think is what it stood for. And it was a concept. So it was like Korg's, we've come up with this thing called Oasis, and it's going to deliver all sorts of wonderful things, some of which are, physical modeling stuff and analog modeling stuff. But MOS was a derivative of that. And Korg kept kind of promising, threatening even, that they would eventually release this thing called Oasis, which was going to be like all things to all men and women and everything in between. And then they released the Z1, which was a polyphonic version of the MOS system that the Prophecy had. Then it all went very quiet. I think there was an Oasis PCI card for the computer, for the PC, that had a bunch of stuff in it. And then it all went quiet. And then eventually, I remember them announcing the new Korg Oasis. And I thought, finally, they've got around. So this thing is going to have this incredible modelling capabilities. And whilst it is an incredible machine, it was bore no resemblance to what we'd expected. From what I understand, there was actually only one original Oasis system at Korg HQ that they used to develop all of these kind of technologies and put them out in different ways. But it was kind of a bit of a letdown for me. And then I saw the price tag. I remember walking into, I think it was Academy of Sound, which was the the retail outlet of choice back then. And like you say, it was humongous with these big kind of like strutted chrome ends, didn't it? It had this thing, and then this big lift up screen that was like 10 inch. It was huge. I thought, wow, this really is kind of the future of workstations, and it kind of tanked, didn't it? Really, I don't know whether it was a combination of price, size, or whatever. It was just
mega expensive. At the time.
But thankfully, the whole workstation thing, I know it's it's still a thing, but it got to a point where like everything was a workstation, and that's all people did.
Yeah, it was a bit.
And it was a bit. Yeah, it was very bland. And some of the companies, admittedly, are still kind of stuck in that paradigm. Yamaha. I mean, Yamaha. What they've done recently is like the refaces. Big whoop. But Montage and Modi X are their kind of prime instruments, and they're decidedly lacking in some departments. Korg, on the other hand, have still maintained that kind of stuff, as have Roland. But Roland haven't really done. I mean, all right. So System 8, JX, Jupiter XM, and stuff. I know somebody who's got an XM and really rates it. as a very powerful instrument. But
The user interface on it is absolutely disastrous, though.
Right. Okay.
I mean, it's a wreck.
Oh, right.
Unfortunately, I'd like to see Roland do some very new and interesting things, or even I think we'd all like to see analog, but sadly.
It just seems like it takes the likes of ASM to come along and shake up the apple cart, but I don't think they're motivating the big three, shall we call them, to do anything outside of what they're currently doing. Korg seem to be the most innovative to a point. I mean, yes, they've re-released the 700 in its limited form and the 2600 in its limited form and the Odyssey as well. But also things like the mini log and the pro logs, they're kind of exciting, fun things to have. So they've not shied away from that end of the market and just purely stuck with the bland workstations.
That is true. Korg have been a bit more active than Yamaha. It's a bit disappointing what they're doing at the minute. I'd love to see them.
They got everybody worked up with their what the hell was called that think tank thing that they had for the CS series.
Yeah,
went in there and it was like madness for a couple of weeks, and after that it's like, they don't really give a damn.
No.
This is all talk and show. Once Behringer announced that they were doing the DS80, then it's like,
Yeah, I still want Yamaha to dip their toe in the plug-in waters, because they just haven't.
Roland and Korg have.
Yeah,
so
I don't understand it.
Yeah, if you're not going to do the classics and hardware, at least give us some CS80 or CS.
Can you imagine what a Yamaha collection would look like?
Oh yeah, and then you think about like the GS1 and 2, the GX1. Oh, yeah, there's so many great things that they have access to. They have a warehouse with this stuff in that they could do the modeling on it.
Yeah, VP1, VL1s. Yeah. I mean, they've got a rich history that they can go back to, and there's no shame in doing that because people want it. And Roland and Korg have demonstrated that it will work. So why not?
And you got to do it right now. Why people still want it? Because
exactly.
I mean, there's a lot of Gen Xers and Boomers that want this stuff. Less so millennials. And do you think Gen Z is going to want any of it or care about any of it? Probably not. So why not make the money now?
Yeah.
We all want it because it was like the unobtainable stuff at the time. You didn't have enough money for it, and now you can have it. And there's a generation that's come through that have, they're still interested in older videos, and they see like songs that they like the sound of and see them playing a Jupiter 8 or they playing a thingy. But as that fades out, the next generation watching Dua Lipa and Ed Sheeran aren't going to see anything like that, and they're not going to want anything like that.
No.
It's like...
Well, I watched a video the other day. I think it was an Arturia promotional video, where the guy, I'm not familiar with the band's music, so I can't comment on that. But he's talking about his rig, and it's all controllers. There are no synthesizers there at all. Yeah. It's all controllers. Jim Danica just released a video of his touring rig that he takes out with is it Michael Smith and Amy Grant and stuff. And it's a KX88 and a laptop. And he says himself, he said that, like 20 years ago, this rig would have had two massive rack stands filled with MKSs and S1100s and whatever else, Korg, racks and stuff. And nowadays, it's just like some controllers and a laptop. Kids are going to look back and think, is there going to be a craze for vintage controllers in 20 years' time? But,
funny thing. So there's probably younger millennial or older Gen Z guitarist that's been getting some hits, and so he ended up with a signature model amp simulation plugin for the computer. Yeah. Okay, so his it comes with 3 amps in it, and one's based on an old Marshall, kind of what you would expect. One's an acoustic simulator, but the middle amp isn't even really based on a real amp. It's based on another modeler's version of a real
Oh,
amp.
right. Wow.
And so the kind of disconnect between these things is becoming big.
Yeah.
In fact, he made a kind of a statement that Rick Beato like blew up all big and kind of ridiculous. And he's like talking about boomer bends, like so think about like very tasteful bluesy guitar bends, which is which are ubiquitous in most music, even stuff like metal. But to see somebody that's maybe Gen Z and how they view it, they're like, well, it's not that he was against it at all. You're just like, well, that's just one way of doing it, and there are a lot of different. It didn't have the same weight, and so I mean, the analogy is like, I think other generations and younger people are not going to look at these things. Something that amongst our friends is so heralded, like a Vangelis or something like that.
Yeah,
they're just not. They don't give a damn. They don't care. No. It's not their generation.
No, exactly. Yeah, no, I fully agree. So, look, we're at 2 hours. That's a show, I think, and we've had a great. I mean, this has been great. I've actually really, really enjoyed this. Not that I didn't think I wasn't going to enjoy it, but I did. I really did enjoy it. So, just to recap, so we first of all we spoke about our favourite effects of the year, and we liked our top 5. In no particular order, apart from the top one, was Pulsar Modulus P42, the Audio Modern stuff, including Filter Step, Chord Jam, and Beat Step, Reverb Foundry's Tai Chi, Arturia's FX Collection 2, but our top plugin of 2021 has been Mr. Wiggly's, aka Dominic Hawkins, fantastic incinerator, so please do go and get yourself a copy of that. When it comes to software instruments, we had the following top 5 in no particular order. For the first 4 positions were Roland Cloud's JD800, Martinique's AX73, Korg's Collection 3, Softtube's 84, and our overall winner of software synthesizer for 2021 was G4 Software's OBE. And then finally, in terms of the hardware, our top 5 in no particular order were Waldorf M, Uno Synth Pro from IK Multimedia, Arturia's Polybrute, and Kodamo's Essence FM Mark II. But the overall winner in that category was a joint title between ASM's Hydrasynth Deluxe and ASM's Hydrasynth Explorer. So congratulations to all those 3. Thank you for producing some great instruments and effects for this year. Thanks to everyone in the business that does this stuff, that gives us something to talk about every week. Thanks to everyone that's watched on this wonderful Christmas Eve. I hope that now you're all tucked up safely with some eggnog or some Baileys or whatever it is that you have before you hang your stockings up over the end of your bed or at the fireplace or whatever you do. Whatever you celebrate, whether you celebrate it or not, have a fantastic Christmas break. Have a break.
And if Santa put some cash in your stocking, be sure to check out Mike Metley's Synth Gems 1 book.
Gems 1, yeah. Which I think unofficially wins our synthesizer book of 2021. It's category of 1. So there you go. Mike and Kim, thank you for that wonderful book.
Yes.
We will be back next week on New Year's Eve, where we are going to hopefully just kind of reminisce about 2021 from a ProSynth Network perspective. We're going to be talking about the guests that we've had and some of our funniest moments, favourite moments, some of our faux pas even.
I think one of our funniest moments has been Will Ferrell mad dogging us the entire time. Like, because it's an expression of like happy excitement, but just seeing his eyes.
Yeah.
There you go. Look, see, to give you the full effect. So it's, oh my God, it's Santa. I know him.
His mouth lined up with microphone.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So have a fantastic Christmas or holiday break or whatever it is that you do or you celebrate. Thank you again for your patronage and your time. This year specifically, but forever. Of course, please don't forget that if you haven't already, please do hit that subscribe button and hit the like button down below as well. We really, really, really appreciate everyone that comes in and watches the show, whether you watch it live or whether you watch it on catch up. We are so grateful for your viewership. And we're also incredibly grateful for all your donations through super chats and super stickers, and also through the PayPal link, which again is down below. And I can tell you, I think I mentioned it a few weeks ago, but all our audience has helped fund us all of this year, and you've already funded us for all of next year in terms of the show and the service that we have to pay for. So we're here for another 12 months at least. And anything that's left over from that, well, we have some plans, and they're all going to be ProSynth Network related. So we're not going to go for a booze up in the Bahamas, as much as that would be a lovely thing to do. But we have some ideas about how we can put that money to use to then deliver you guys a quality show. And again, so we don't do this for profit. We do this because we're sad and lonely and we don't have much else to do on a Friday evening. So we're doing it all for you. So we thank you for your continued contributions. It is so appreciated. I think that's about it. I'm going to go and have another little tipple. I'm going to go to sleep and hopefully wake up tomorrow morning with everything that I ever wanted under my tree, including that emulator too.
Happy Synthmas.
Happy Synthmas,
everyone.
Yeah, and so whatever you celebrate, have a happy one. It's fantastic.
Can't wait for that Jupiter 6.
I know, yeah. How's he going to get that in his sleigh along with my E2 and Chris's 50? Was it 58?
59.
59 Les Paul. 59 Les Paul.
59 Les Paul. Yeah.
I'm sure he's got room.
Hope Santa doesn't get distracted.
Yeah, and he might just sit. Yeah, he's just playing away,
going through the E2 library.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic.
Doing Ferris Bueller.
Have a great Christmas. Because also Christmas now is at the weekend, so I don't know what you guys in America do, but here in the UK we get Monday and Tuesday off as well. So we have Christmas on Saturday and Sunday, and then bank holiday Monday and Tuesday.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Right
anyway,
on.
Enjoy it. We will see you New Year's Eve. Make sure you've got plenty of this going, or whatever it is because it's New Year's Eve. We're going to celebrate it properly. We're going to have a proper old reminisce about the year. So do join us then. Thank you again to everyone. Love to see you. Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas.